Now let's see how we can install Apache web server on remote nodes with the help of an Ansible playbook. Before we start, let's quickly review and verify our environment. Let's go to our AWS EC2 dashboard in the AWS Management Console. Here, select the Instances link from the left panel. When we click on Instances, we can see we have one Ansible host and two test nodes. We will execute the commands on our Ansible host, and using those Ansible commands, we will install the software on the two test nodes. Now let's switch back to the terminal. Here we need to configure the host inventory and the Ansible configuration file. Let's have a quick look at our current inventory. Execute view/etc/ansible/hosts. So here is our current inventory, where we have one group named demo hosts, and it includes our two test nodes, node 01 and node 02. Before we try to perform any operations on these hosts, we must ping all the instances in the inventory and verify everything has been set up correctly. If there are no issues, the ping command should respond back with a success message. In your environment, if it doesn't ping the host successfully, then there is something wrong with the configuration. You have to follow the installation and configuration steps from the previous session, then try to troubleshoot the problem before moving forward. Let's execute Ansible-m ping all. Okay, cool, our ping was successful, so everything is set up correctly. Now, what we are going to look at is how to install Apache web server on the remote host node 01. For this exercise, we take incremental steps. First, we will install Apache web server on node 01 alone. Then we will run our Ansible playbook against both nodes and observe how Apache gets installed or updated on the target nodes. Most playbooks are idempotent, which means when we run the Ansible playbook once again on the same target machine, it should keep the state of the target consistent. An operation is idempotent if the result of performing it once is exactly the same as the result of performing it repeatedly without any intervening actions. Let's say we install Apache web server on the target node, and next time when we run the same operation or playbook for installing Apache, in that case, Ansible is not going to uninstall any of our installed bits. Rather, it will just ensure that Apache web server is installed correctly and consistently. Let's have a quick look at the playbook we worked on earlier. Type cat.demo1/sample.yaml and press enter. This is the sample Ansible playbook, which should look familiar to you. We used it in the last module. So what we did here was, we installed Nginx and wget and also demonstrated the use of the copy module. Now, when we install Apache web server with our new playbook file, we are going to configure similar tasks and try to incorporate all the things that you have learned in the previous module. Let's create a new Ansible playbook file. We will use VI editor for that. Execute vi apache_install.yaml. Here is our new YAML file. Now we are going to create a new target group. Let's call it web_portal. Now before we actually run this playbook, we will need to ensure we go back and configure this group in our inventory. We will get to this step in a moment here. Next, we have the tasks section. Before writing any complex playbook, We are going to define the skeleton of what we are going to do. It is almost like writing some pseudo code before we actually write real code in our programs. So let's just list the tasks we would like to include in this playbook. We will write out the tasks in plain English first and then flush them out later. The first task will be apt get update. Next, install Apache 2. And after that, we will try to copy a data file to the remote machine. So for that, we will like a copy task, copy data files. These are the tasks which we are going to perform to install Apache. Now let's try to flush these 3 tasks before adding more complex directives to our playbook. Well, there are going to be some new modules and commands we may need to use for this playbook, so let's go back and read some documentation and come back here in the playbook. Let's save this playbook in its current form for now and run our documentation command, Ansible-doc apt. Now, Ansible-doc is the inbuilt documentation tool which ships with Ansible. But you can also browse similar documentation online by just searching for this Ansible module. The online documentation may be more up to date in some cases. Anyway, for now, we will continue with the inbuilt documentation. Here we can read the documentation for apt module, which is used for managing apt packages. Let's review what parameters we are going to use for this module. The first argument which we are going to use here is the name, which is how we specify our package name. And then we are going to use state. Here we have the choice whether we want to use the latest, absent or present. The default state is present. Then we have the update_cache, which is used for apt-get update itself. Okay, armed with this information, let's go back to our playbook. Execute vi apache_install.yaml. Notice here that all tasks are being set up as YAML lists. We already reviewed this format in previous modules, so you should be well familiar with it. Here is our first task, whose responsibility is to update the package cache. We will use apt module, but we will not install any packages in this particular step. Instead, we will just issue a command to update the packages. We will specify apt::update_cache equals yes, so that when Ansible runs this task, it will update the package cache. Okay, great, so that was our first task. Let's move on to the next task, which is to install Apache. So once again, we are going to use the apt module and specify apt::name equals Apache 2. Here, Apache 2 is the name of the package we are interested in installing on the remote machine. Let's hope we did not misspell the package name here. We are not going to update cache, as here we are just demonstrating how we can write various steps for multiple tasks in a playbook. If you want, you can be explicit about it and specify update cache equals no. Since we have already updated the cache in the previous step, we really do not need to update the cache again. Okay, we have our 2 tasks configured. Next is copy task. Let's refer to its documentation quickly. Save this playbook file and exit our VI editor. Now, let's review the documentation for the copy module. But wait, what if you do not exactly know which module will be most suitable to use here? In such cases, you can use a trick to list all the modules and then grep for the keyword you are looking for. For instance, let's execute Ansible-doc-l pipe grep copy. So you can see we have a few modules available which provide some type of copy functionality. Reading the brief description about the module, we can easily narrow down the module we should be using here. It is not necessary for us to know each and every module that Ansible ships with. And even if we know about the particular module, we are not expected to learn all the attributes or arguments which a particular module expects. The documentation tool is a great reference which you should leverage at all times to look up suitable Ansible modules and the detailed usage for those modules. As you have seen, Ansible ships with tons of modules in its library and new ones are being added constantly. So as DevOps engineers, it's almost impossible for us to learn and have intimate knowledge about all of them. But the great thing is that they all have extensive documentation which makes it easy to work with them.